I get those goosebumps. I get those I get those goosebumps every time I'm around you. Who's on mine? You make everything feel fine. Worry about those times. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype. Throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Good evening, everyone. We are back again. The Loaded Mag NUFC full loaded transfer show. We're back to talk all things Newcastle United. On this fine Wednesday evening, it is hot, absolutely boiling hot. I've got the fan here ready to go. But how are you boys? How's things?
All good with me. It is boiling hot outside here today as well. And lovely weather, actually. I wonder if this is the last of the summer. But all good with me. I'm not fighting with the clutch. I'm not scaling new heights like you boys. But apart from that, all good. Looking forward to chatting a bit of Newcastle. I know we had our top table talk there last night. Great to see all the boys back. If you've missed it, go catch up on that. But more of that as we go through week by week, and it'll get interesting. But yeah, no, just let's focus on Newcastle and transfers. So, how are you, Chris?
Not great. So I mad rush. I know it's something that always happens to me before the show. But anyway, yeah, me clutch is now playing up on my car. It appears to have frozen, so I couldn't change gear. But thankfully, it happened to me about 5 minutes walk away from the house, so it could have been worse. So that's what I keep telling myself. It could have been worse. So it's parked up on the side of the road, and yeah, I'm going to have to call a mechanic and no doubt get fleeced tomorrow. That's what I think I'm going to have to do, which is a shame, but never mind. Any mechanics from the Liverpool area who want to get in touch with me, feel free. But other than that, I'm good, boys. I'm good. It's been an interesting few days, hasn't it? Lots of rumours, lots to talk about. So yeah, I've been looking forward to doing the show this evening and discussing more NUFC. But Pete, how are you doing, mate? You good?
I'm good, yeah. Just busy. As Dad said, scaling new heights. As tall people out there, we have to do these things. You know, this is what we
Only
do.
for a ladder.
Painting, doing all these things. Like it is what it is. But the room, the den is nearly complete. Couple more days and we'll be good to go in there. And hopefully, one of the shows into next week, I'll be up and running. But we shall wait and see. All good with me. Hopefully everyone else in the chat as well. Make sure you're getting those likes in. Sophie's already in the chat telling you what to do. Get those likes up nice and early as we enter into the show, because I say to the boys who are at live, we've got a lot to talk about tonight, a lot of different topics, a lot of interesting topics, relatable ones. Newcastle United have been very active in one way or another in the last few days. So nice to talk about a few other things, actually. Obviously, the old same old will be discussed at some point. We have to, Daz. I'm sorry. We've got to do
obligatory now at this stage.
We've got to, but we will discuss it all. I wanted to start with something different. I want to talk about our new boy, Malick Thiaw. Is in the house. Tell you what, black and white don't all suit him. That top looks very, very nice on him, and he's very happy to see that Champions League badge. We got to meet the gaffer. That was a nice snap that I saw on social, so I thought I'd nab that one. But boys, I know we talked about him coming in. You would have seen the interviews. You would have seen how well he spoke on those. Has he impressed you, Daz, Chris, in what you've heard so far? What have you made of him when he was officially unveiled last night?
I am Malick Thiaw. Yeah, so yeah, I like the new video. It was a different style. I like that. That's a thumbs up on that one. I saw the clip today where he's meeting everyone at the training ground: Gordon, Byrne, Lascelles, Alanga, etc., etc. Great to see him meeting everyone. Didn't see Isak yet, but yeah, not yet. But. Yeah, I didn't hear the interview actually. I've missed that. I missed the Ramsdale one as well. I've missed these interviews. I don't know how but yeah, no. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in black and white. Look, it means now we're not talking about a centre back going into as the sun starts to come out and messes up my green screen there. But it means we're not talking about a centre back for the next couple of weeks. We've got other positions to sort out, midfielder and strikers being some of them. Yeah, best of luck to him.
Absolutely. Chris, I think you watched the interview. I think you might have mentioned something in our chat in relation to that. What did you make of how he spoke in his first interview? I think all Newcastle fans tend to, well, they kind of like hold it with bated breath to see how they come across, how they speak about the club and what they know. Well, what did you make of it?
I thought he came across really humble. Ultimately, he was pleased to be here from the look of things, which is great. Great to hear, particularly after all the knockbacks in recent weeks. Yeah, and I thought he came across really well. And well done, Newcastle, as well, by the way, for responding to the feedback that the fans have been given. Because I noticed that they did a release video of Malick Thiaw, that was put out there. And then they did, the link in where they get like an everyday fan and they do the whole, I think this guy, I forget his name, I do apologise, but he was like a pizza owner. And that was great. That was great. But I want to see me reveal video as well. And I'm glad that Newcastle followed that up by, first announcing the player, doing only a little, 30, 40, 50 seconds, little announcement video. And then follows it up later with the fan perspective. I liked that. But yeah, he came across really well. It was nice, as Daz says, to see him, being introduced to the players. And yeah, I'm excited by it. I didn't realise how tall he was. I mean, I knew he was like 6'3", 6'4". But when he was stood next to Dan Burn, I was like, bloody hell, you're not far off Dan Burn there. So yeah, big lad, imposing lad, hopefully. And do you know what? Ultimately, boys, he brings much needed pace to the centre of defence, and it's something we've been crying out for a long time now. And I think the prospect, excuse me, of having him and Sven Botman as a centre half pairing is a really exciting one. So yeah, I'm really pleased with Malick Thiaw, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him in the black and white on the pitch.
I'm excited, boys. I really am excited about this. Chris, you're absolutely right. I was going to mention it, and you're absolutely spot on. I was so happy to see an intro video just on him speaking, him doing the intro. We've missed it. I know, Daz, you touched on it as well, about Newcastle fans kind of sharing their frustration, should we say, on that. Like, it was frustrating for all of us, because you want to see the player first and foremost. We like the little added community touch to it that came afterwards. That's fine. But I want to see the intro for the player. And how they did that was great. But I'm really excited about this. Looking into some data, and I haven't got enough space in our kind of media section, because we've got so much different stuff to talk about tonight, which is great, by the way, because there's lots of different things to cover. But I didn't realise that his stats with the ball, in comparison to lots of different aspects, is so high. I knew he was really good with the ball at his feet. I didn't realize he was that good. So, it talked about him in relation to Serie A centre backs. He was rated one of the best in the league, even last season, considering how they weren't great last season, AC Milan. In comparison to other under 23 centre backs, he was ranked number 1 for his ability on the ball, his progressive passing. Some of that data I had no idea about, and seeing that makes me excited, because if he can produce that in a season where AC Milan weren't great and Malick Thiaw hadn't had his best season, that fills me with excitement, that if he can get under Eddie Howe and he can get on the training ground, learning from Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe giving him instructions of how he wants to play in our team. I think he could be an absolute one of those gems. Any issues, really quickly, because I'm not sure if we covered it. Any issues with the transfer fee, lads? It looks like it's 30 million plus 4, so it would work out to about 34.3 million all in with those add-ons added. But a 30 million pound deal, is that bad for Malick Thiaw? Because I've seen some people going, "Oh, pay too much, it's expensive." What do you think?
That's all because of the deal that was there with Como, and we kind of covered it, but why we thought why it's gone up in price. And I know that I haven't read it, but I know that Athletic covered a bit of that today as well. But when you're comparing that to 70 million for Mark A, so that's half. He's half the price of Mark A. Let's put it into that. He's still only a centre back at the end of the day. He's going to get injured, same like Mark A get injured. And he's even that bit younger than him. So I'm okay with the fee. I think we also said it before. I think Eddie Howe will improve him. That fee, his value will go up in price as well. So I'm happy with the deal. And it's something we don't have to worry about. We're not trying to go out. We all would have fancied having Scalvini, but you're into the 65 million already, and they didn't want to sell it. So you're going against a brick wall. And then who knows who someone else may jump out as well and gazump us again. Look, it's done, it's sorted. Bang, we go into the season because we have so much other stuff to work out.
Absolutely. Did you have any objections to that price, Chris? Do you think it's a good deal, bad deal, somewhere in between? Like, what's your opinion on it?
No, I think it's a good deal. I mean, I could be wrong here, boys, but I seem to remember some time ago when we were talking about going for Malick Thiaw, I seem to remember the figure being like 40 million. That was before this summer.
That's
yeah. And for the player, and this is what I was saying to my mates, for the player who's 24 years of age, literally just turned 24, Champions League experienced, played in huge games in Serie A with AC Milan, also played in Germany, played internationally for Germany. I think it's a really good signing. I really do. And as I mentioned earlier, he brings a skill set which we're not blessed with in the centre of defence at the moment, which is pace. So for me, yeah, I mean, I said to my mates, if he played in the Premier League, he's a £50 million player, easy. So for us to bring him in for 30 plus 4.3, I still think it's a good deal. I really do. And no doubt, he will improve under Eddie Howe. And who knows, we see, don't we, certain players are, often touted as being more suited to a league. I think Malick Thiaw is suited to the Premier League. It's robust, it's quick. Being able to recover if you make a mistake or your line's too high or someone breaks the lines. He is perfect, and I'm really excited by it. And me personally, 34 million these days, it doesn't get you very much. And I think to bring in a player of his quality and his pedigree, I think it's a good sign.
You know what's really interesting? I was on with Saeed this morning, went on his channel because I said to him, he screwed me over last time when I went on a few weeks ago, and it was all about the Isak stuff. And I was like, if you're going to get me on when we're at least doing something good. Don't screw me over again. And to be fair, he kept his word. So I went on, obviously, talk about Jacob Ramsey and various other things. And it's really interesting to see that nobody outside of Newcastle United clearly knew anything about Malick Thiaw, because they've seen that we've linked with him. We've seen that we've bid. We've seen that we've got him. And it's really interesting, the change of tone from Chelsea fans, from Man United fans, from Liverpool fans, because they're all clearly done their research on him. Now we've signed him and they've gone, hey, he looks all right. He looks like a good player. And you can see that they're starting to realise, you can see the cog turning as if to say, hold on, why are we not looking at this guy? Like, why have they signed him? It could be another one. It could be another Botman. It could be another Botman where we go and sign him and everyone goes, oh, Why weren't we going? Why weren't we there? Why weren't we at the table for so and so? Tonali, another one. Absolutely, Daz. And so that was my kind of takeaway from that. But look, I'm excited about it. Obviously, it will need time to bed in. It will be giving away days now, but it will be Burn and Shaw, I believe, at centre back on Saturday. But I don't think it will be long before Malick Thiaw is commanding his place in that starting lineup. That's for sure. Because he is a quality player. So I just wanted to touch on that. Just some positivity, lads. Yeah, some positivity. We've got to sign in. And actually, that leads to a question that I'm going to give you or ask you in just a second. Let's keep this good. Let's keep this happiness going.
Can handle this, Pete.
Alive. Let's keep this alive because someone else is gone the other way. Yeah, someone else is at Sevilla. And that's been confirmed. I'll be honest, lads, I didn't even see the confirmation. I had to go back and find this because this must have been lost in the shuffle somewhere. But it had been confirmed that he has completed a season-long loan. I pray and hope that he has a great season at Sevilla so that they sign him permanently. I think that's everyone's opinion.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to throw that into some positivity. And this leads into a question, boys, that I've got for you right now. So, yes, we've had all these rejections that people wanted to jump on and talk about earlier on in the window. Horrible summer, worst summer, it's been a mess, all the rest of it in terms of signing players. We've had it all as Newcastle fans. We're hard into it now. We've got our shields on. No one can touch us because we've been hammered all summer. But we now sit currently, as it stands, with Anthony Elanga, Aaron Ramsdale, and now Malick Thiaw. Potentially another couple, possibly soon behind that. And it's interesting because Luke Edwards put this out the other day. And he put quietly and slowly Newcastle are having a good transfer window, particularly if they stuck to their plan. We'll get to that clown in a second. But my question to you boys is our summer as bad as what people are making out in terms of the players that have walked through the door, the players that we've acquired so far? Is it that bad, or is the tide turning? Is maybe a better question to put out there, Daz.
I'm going to answer your question, Pete, but if you were looking for someone to help you paint that ceiling, that man there, that man with the long neck, he is the man to help you. It's a pity now he's gone to Seville because we could have had him working for you for the summer. Okay, it's a bit deceiving to say the truth at the moment because yes, we've strengthened the defense and we've got Ramsdale now who can play out his feet, and it gives us another good option in goal. And I think sooner rather than later he becomes the number one, and I hope he does, and he gets his permanent move. We could talk about going down another rabbit hole and going Man City buying another goalkeeper. Trafford could potentially become available again. We'll get there. But to stick on the question, so the defense is sorted. With the Lange in, and we've got our rights, our winger sorted. It's just so it's halfway to being a good window, but the whole mess is up top. Well, with the whole striker situation, with Wilson, we're happy that Wilson's gone to West Ham, and how that will work out. But we just need to get that resolved some way or the other, and then we could maybe potentially class it as a good window. But it's too early yet. It's only halfway there to make a call on that.
Okay, so halfway there to call it a good window. So I'll ask you, Chris: is the tide turning? Is the tide turning? Should our opinions on this window, on this summer window, start to change slightly? Now we're seeing players confirmed, signed, and through the door of a good quality. Well, where do you stand on that conversation? So I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah, it is. It is an interesting one. When you take a step back, as you've done there, Pete, and you compare, and somebody in the chat put it in as well. When you compare the signings that we've made versus the ones that we haven't got, that we allegedly went for, and we're pretty sure that we did go for them, it is disappointing when you do that. But when you actually look at the improvements made to the squad, so Anthony Elanga, we've been desperate for a right winger, and if you look at the outputs from Anthony Elanga last season, I think you can class that as an upgrade. So I think that was a good signing. You then look at Aaron Ramsdale, who's received a little bit of shade, a little bit of critique. You know, people saying, you know, we thought we were getting James Trafford, and I would say we've probably signed a more ready for now goalkeeper in Aaron Ramsdale. But people forget, you know, if you rewind 2 or 3 years ago, Aaron Ramsdale was the number one for Arsenal. This is a player who, you know, has played internationally. He's played at the very top level for Arsenal. And also, you'll recall, there was a lot of people who were all saying, "Oh, why have they signed David Raya? You know, David Raya's coming in, and I just think Ramsdale's better than David Raya." And now David Raya's, you know, cemented himself as the number one. But not so long ago, Aaron Ramsdale was right up there with him, and in some people's minds, he was ahead.
Just adding into what you're saying, he was in the team of the season in his one full season at Arsenal. He was actually named team of the season as the goalkeeper. Just adding that.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know that actually. People know it's another great point, and I think you know, people forget them. I think Aaron Ramsdale would probably question his career moves. I don't think his career moves have been great since leaving Arsenal. But as I've said previously, I do quite like him for the fact that he clearly just wants to play football, and that is something to be admired. You know, so yeah, dealing with Ramsdale, I think it's a good. And as we've said before, boys, is he an upgrade on Vuzzy? Is he an upgrade on Vlachodimos? Is he an upgrade on Dubravka? There, without a shadow of a doubt. Then you go, is he an upgrade on Pope? And I think over time we will see he is an upgrade on Pope. It's a bit closer, but I think he is. I think he's a better all-round goalkeeper than Pope, and he will allow us to play in a particular way. But we've discussed this in great detail anyway, haven't we? And then you've got Malick Thiaw, a right centre back that we've been linked with for a very, very long time. A position that we've needed to fill for a very, very long time, and you know, it could turn out to be a really shrewd piece of business. Yeah, there is a little bit of, you know, a sour taste in the mouth in terms of the price, because there was an opportunity to get him for less weeks ago. But let's be honest. You know, I think AC Milan would always have asked for more from us. Even if we'd matched the Como bid, they probably would have said, "Oh no, because it's you, because it's Newcastle United, because they're Saudi owned, because they're a Premier League club." It would have been a higher price anyway. So I think to secure him for 30 plus 4.3 is good business. So there for me, I feel like we're 60% of the way done. I feel like we've brought in 3 and we need 2 more. The 2 more, in my opinion, is a Callum Wilson replacement and a central midfielder to replace Sean Longstaff. Now, you could go on more. You could go, we need a first choice striker, and we will get to that. We will get to that shortly, I'm sure. But if we finish this window with, I'll just throw 2 names out there, Johan Visser, and I don't know, I'll say Jacob Ramsey, but whether or not that will happen, I don't know. Again, we'll get to that. That's a decent window. It's a decent window. And if you consider as well, lads, this is, I think the spend is minimal as well. This is something else I was discussing with the lads today. The spend is minimal because, you know, don't forget we got the 15 million in for Sean Longstaff. We've got Odyssey's Vlachodimos' wages off the wage bill. We've got Callum Wilson's wages off the wage bill. We've got Isaac Hayden's wages off the wage bill. And we've also managed, let's not forget, to secure our 20 million for Lloyd Kelly, which happened in the closed season when Juventus qualified for Europe. So you look at it, and a big chunk of that 20 million will be absolute pure profit, as well as the Sean Longstaff money. So you're looking and you're going, actually, how much have we actually spent this window, and is the room to go even bigger? And it goes back to what we said. It might have been you, Pete, who specifically said it. I think we're going to be very busy in the last week of this window, because I think we're going to be looking for opportunities. You mentioned just earlier. Yeah, you mentioned just earlier about Donnarumma. Who would have said a month ago that PSG and Donnarumma would have come out and gone, yeah, needs to go? And that's just one player. There could be a whole host of players who become available towards the end of the window, and Newcastle sitting there with the money waiting, could be coming into even more money, but again, something we're going to discuss in a bit. It's an opportunity. It's a opportune market. It's an opportune time for us to strike and try and get ourselves a bargain. We did the same with Sandro Tonali. We found out Sandro Tonali was available, and we went in and we done the deal very, very quickly. And you just wonder whether Newcastle are just hovering and waiting now to see if any opportunities arise. But yeah, so far, mate, I think if you look at it in isolation and try to ignore the players that we missed out on because they've been and gone, there's no point crying over them. I think it's been good, and I think we're well on our way to improving the squad from last season.
Yeah.
I agree. We are definitely on our way to having a good window, that is for sure. And looking at those players and what we've signed and where we needed to, and you talked about it, Chris, the positions that we needed to. Yes, it's not that striker that we wanted or been after in terms of that high profile level of player, but we've actually gone about our business quite well in terms of getting the other positions right in terms of what we needed. And like you say, with the likes of the fact that Aaron Ramsdale was on loan, the fact that we got it, Anthony Elanga for 52 million when they initially wanted 65 million for him at Nottingham Forest. That's a good deal and will be a good deal. Malick Thiaw for 30 million is a great deal. You very rarely get a centre back, a Champions League level centre back that plays for a historic team like AC Milan for 30 million. You very rarely get players to come in to your club for that type of price, but we've managed to do it. And so therefore you're looking at that and it's great deals, but we're not done. There is still more to be done. Sorry, mate.
Just to add in, mate, just on the great point you've made there. Look at the likes of Zabani at Bournemouth. Very, very good season last season. Very good. And I'm not taking that away from him. He looks excellent. Just
one season.
Look at the price. Look at the price. Look at the price. He hasn't played Champions League football. Look at the price. What did PSG play? It was over 50 million, wasn't it?
55, I think, in the end.
Yeah. More than Dean Huijsen.
Yeah. And this is the thing. So when you weigh it up, it's actually the business that we're doing could work out to be really astute business. And people could well look back on this in 6 to 12 months. Because it's all right. I'm taking in all this noise from opposition fans. Shit somehow, all that rubbish, right? Because we could be sitting there in November, December, January going, what were you saying? Because it could mean absolutely nothing. Because we could
too
be
early yet, though.
But it is too early. But the club and the manager has given us no reason not to feel like it can't go that way again. And I'm not talking like we're going to be sitting top of the league. I'm not talking like we're going to have a trophy in the cabinet like we did last season. But what I'm saying is that everyone's expecting us to fail this season. And it could quite easily go the other way. And it could quite easily would be that we're competitive. So it's
and that's kind of the siege mentality now with the players that galvanize them to the just let's show them we can do this. So maybe they still need a bit of help up top, but let's go out and show everyone that that this hasn't affected us, and we can use it to our advantage.
It for me, it's kind of like I want to shed some positivity on what's been happening lately, because we've had so much negativity that's thrown at us. It's nice to talk about things in a positive light and actually look at things more positively, because we've got players through the door and we are looking in a semi-decent position. Just want to throw this out really quickly. Crow, massive thanks to you for your 199. I was about to say, put a question in or a comment in, but then you did afterwards. I'll put it up, lads. So Newcastle fans can breathe again.
Yes.
Joined Leeds United. I did refrain from clipping that up and putting it in our media thing to discuss, but obviously that's one striker ticked off that we are not going to be going for, which is delighted many Newcastle fans out there, including us. So that's one that's definitely not happening. Another one from American Geordie. He says, "Why don't we just go all in on Samu statement signing?" Well, I'll get your thoughts on that in a second, boys, because we have got that as a topic to come to later on in the show. But thank you for that, American Geordie, and we will drop that back up on the screen again when we get to that point. One thing that I wanted to talk to you about is what is kind of a left field one, actually, is this man. Kieran Trippier and the interest coming from Monaco. That was reported by Keith Downey, who I have to say is a friend of the channel, but his reporting on all things Newcastle United this summer has gone up 2, 3, 4 levels. Like, he has been excellent with his reporting on Newcastle United, as has Craig Hope, to be fair. They've both been excellent on it this summer and on the button all the way through. But he's coming up with another exclusive. AS Monaco are interested in signing Kieran Trippier. Newcastle don't want to lose him, but Trippier does have a year left on his contract. And interestingly, his teammate and good friend, Eric Dyer, plays for Monaco at this moment in time. So, boys, in your opinion, if there was a firm offer, should we be selling Kieran Trippier or should we be keeping him at the club? For me, there's a no-brainer there. But what are your thoughts, Daz?
Yeah, okay. Well, when this news came out, I think we had a conversation about it in our chat as well. And the first thing I said was, just as he's getting his head back, and he's got his head back in the last while on the football pitch, that is, and he's becoming an asset to us again, whereas he was off the boil there for a while. But we can't lose him because we need his ability on the pitch. We need his leadership. He's that kind of, even when he's not on the pitch and he's a sub, you see it yourselves. He'll be running up and down the touchline, jogging, but barking instructions, making sure everyone is in the right place, in the right mind, making suggestions of what they should do in a nice way. So we can't lose that, especially going into a Champions League season. So many games we have Hall, we have Trips, and we have Livramento as our main, and they can swap between them as well. Then we have alternatives like Alex Murphy and stuff like that as well. But now, so I'm saying no, we can't sell him. Same time, if someone was to give us an offer we couldn't refuse, then we're in a massive hole again, because how do we replace him? And we need a replacement. That's why when we're talking about it, that's where Sean Knight Phillips from Southampton. Kyle Walker-Peters, that's it. It's a double bar name. Kyle Walker-Peters. So where he would have come in, he could have potentially been that replacement if we got a crazy bid. But all in all, to answer your question, Pete, no, we can't sell him. And I don't think we get a massive offer from Monaco it's not going to be like the 12 million that we talked about before from Bayern. So it'll be, we're shooting ourselves in the foot, really.
Absolutely. Chris, your thoughts on Kieran Trippier? Obviously 1 year left on his deal. We were close to losing him when Bayern Munich came about. Daz has touched on that as well. Well, would you be considering letting him go this window?
You boys and everyone in the chat will remember I was a little bit miffed that we didn't take the offer from Bayern Munich for Kieran Trippier. And the reason I said that was because that was an opportunity, given this PSR world that we're in, that was an opportunity for me to basically turn over a player who has been a fantastic servant. I still actually believe we'll look back in years to come and say Kieran Trippier's been our best ever right back. That's how highly I rate him. I think he's been excellent. And I still feel like that was a good opportunity missed for Kieran Trippier to try his hands in Germany, and for us to basically get our money back and still make a little bit of a profit and wish him well. However, it didn't happen. And then obviously he was linked, wasn't he, in the last window? I think it was in January. He was linked with a move to Turkey. I forget which club it was in Turkey, but there was a club it might have been Galatasaray. Yeah, they were. Yeah, and obviously, the fee was being mooted as being about 4 million or something like that. Well, I've gone full circle now. After this summer, and given that Kieran Trippier is, since January, we got his head down. I've got a newfound respect for Kieran Trippier, and that's not to say I didn't have respect for him previously. I absolutely did. But for what we need right now, for what we need in the dressing room, Kieran Trippier is essential. He's absolutely essential. We need, especially and we won't mention his name yet. and what's gone on in this close season. We need players who are committed to the cause. We need players who role model the correct behaviour and conduct themselves in a professional manner. So for me, I do you know what, boys, genuinely, even if we got offered 15 million, I'd still say no. Right now, we need Kieran Trippier. We need, you know, he had a bit of a difficult period in his personal life, and apparently he wanted out, but he remained professional. He still turned up to training. He still came in and did his job. And you know, it's particularly towards the back end of the season, he really turned a corner, and he was absolutely integral for us. So for me now, given, you know, we're going into a season of, I wouldn't say negativity, but, you know, the summer hasn't been what we expected it to be. And I think in order for us to go in, we've got a difficult start. In order for us to go in all guns blazing and make sure that everybody's on side, everybody's a unit, everybody's united, we need people like Kieran Trippier there. So for me, it's non-negotiable. Kieran Trippier doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. We have lost, you know, a big leader, for example, in the likes of Callum Wilson, who, you know, he might have not worn the armband, but he was clearly an influential character in the back. We can't afford to lose too many leaders in the back, particularly someone of the nature of Kieran Trippier, who's been absolutely colossal for us in the 3-4 years that he's been at the club. We can't afford to do that, especially with the type of summer we've had. And what the players have gone through. They need to have someone that had the experience of going through something like this. So they need that experience to see them through. More importantly, though, on top of that, is that I watched that Atletico Madrid game and I just saw how he conducted players on the pitch, that leadership, that telling people where to go, what to do, leading by example on the pitch in terms of taking on responsibilities that he didn't necessarily have to do. But we need that. If we're going into the Champions League, that type of level of experience in certain games, particularly maybe even away from home, could be absolutely crucial. And you can't replace that level of experience when you're just going to be potentially selling them for 2 or 3 million. It's not worth it. No. You can't replace a player like Kieran Trippier and the experience like Kieran Trippier for 2 or 3 million. You just can't. I'd much rather send away that 2 or 3 million, have him for the season, and just let him go on free. I'd much rather him do that at the end of his contract because, one, he deserves it. 2, he's down as an absolute legend of this club. First player that's lifted a domestic trophy for Newcastle United in 70 years. And he will be forever seen in that image alongside Bruno Guimaraes in lifting that trophy. That holds weight for me in terms of the type of player and legend that he is at the club. And we cannot afford to lose him whatsoever. I get that there's the pull of going to play with his mate. He'll obviously get an increase in wage going to Monaco. There was also an interesting point that I'll just drop it up on here, was that the contract's expiring in the summer and you look at the players moving out. That was the other question mark there as well, because you've got, 6 players that could be potentially leaving the club. I don't believe all 6 will leave, but there's a potential for 6 players to leave the club. And obviously there is a high age in terms of all of those players there. So maybe that is part of the consideration of Newcastle United and maybe something to consider. Like I say, I don't think all of those players will leave, but I think the vast majority will. And it's whether we can afford to lose that many players at the end of next summer. But I don't know what you think about that, boys, as a kind of a little spanner in there in terms of the age, in terms of the players that could potentially leave the club. You think that may be part of the consideration of the club and what's going through their mind at the moment?
I haven't really thought about this so much as some of the other topics going on. I'm sure it would have been one that we would have covered through as the season goes on. And I know some of the players they have up here as well, like they've got extensions recently. Like Char, Lascelles got one for the year. And I'm sure if an offer came in from our target, we'd take it. My target on the list there, but yeah, it's something to consider as we move forward into the season, I think.
Chris, I think there's maybe maximum 2 on that list that are leaving. Sorry, not leaving. That will stay at Newcastle United this summer. Do you think there'll be more or less than that could potentially stay at Newcastle from that list that you can see?
The maximum I would say is 3, and the 3 I'm looking at, Pete, and it will be dependent on performances this season.
Yeah,
but the 3 I can see staying are Shah, Pope, and Kraft. I don't see the other 3 staying. I think Kieran Trippier will be given a big hug and thanked for all his efforts, and he can then make the move that he chooses to make. I could see Kieran Trippier going to America, to be honest. I don't know why. I've just got a feeling. Or, he may choose to, he may do a bit of a Kyle Walker and maybe go to a club, closer to his roots. Maybe Burnley, who knows? I think Matt Targett will leave with the blessing of the club, and I also think that Jamal Lascelles will leave. But again, I mean, it depends how Jamal Lascelles does this season. Let's not forget, boys, he's only 31. If Jamal Lascelles plays a key part, in maybe Champions League games where we hopefully have already qualified, or League Cup games or FA Cup games, who knows? They may put him on a reduced salary and say stay. He's still only 31, so there's a possibility there. But they would be the 3 that I think could leave. I think Nick Pope will be given a new contract. Fabian Schär will be given another year, and I think that Emil Kraft will be kept round as well because of his versatility and the fact that, unlike his Swedish counterpart, he is a ultimate professional.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but it's an area of the squad that needs to be addressed because we do have quite an aging squad. So it's one that we need to keep an eye on with regards to that. That's for sure. So it was just an interesting point of maybe do Newcastle let Trippier go this summer to allow there to be less of an exodus of those older players that have got contracts expiring in the summer, or do they take the risk? I think they take the risk personally. I think there's definitely a couple in there that they'll give a contract to for sure. So just want to keep an eye on with regards to that. Okay, let's have the conversation around this man, Alexander Isak. Let's get this out there and in the topic of conversation, because yesterday on Top Table Talk, I brought these up to you boys in the panel with regards to what Keith Downey had said, and this obviously sparked a reaction the next day. I think he said this on Monday. Then the reaction on Tuesday was this. So David Ornstein came out and said that Alexander Isak's adamant he's not going to play for the club again, even if the window closes and he's still at Newcastle United. He considers his Newcastle career over and has no wish to reintegrate. Something on Monday that was touted that could potentially happen if he wasn't to get his move. Ben Jacobs mentioned about this because Ben Jacobs is the one that said about the reintegration process. He did mention that if Liverpool say to Isak, it's impossible for them to do this deal in this summer window, he said that at that point he will reintegrate into Newcastle United's team. That was what was said on Monday. He's then talked about it in a bit more detail with regards to that, and mentions that Newcastle want clarity this week with the ownership now involved in several Isak-specific meetings. Luke Edwards has reined in with his opinion. He's saying, based on what David Ornstein has said, that he made these intentions clear days ago. This is not new information. This is why he's not training or playing with the group. He also has not said a thing publicly about his intentions and not handed in an official transfer request, something which now has become more of a topic about this transfer request because Luke had raised this point and made it. Boys, just with that, what are your thoughts on that, just on what we've just said right there about Alexander Isak? What are your thoughts on his refusal to play for the club again, this reinstated situation where he's saying he's going to refuse to reinstate himself back into the squad and in the team? Well, what do you make of those comments that came out from David Ornstein yesterday? Because we haven't had an opportunity to have a conversation on this.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to say what I really think on there. But like I see as well. No. It'd be pretty bad. Look, I'm seeing Jordan and Liam putting up tweets as well. Today again. He's not training. He's training alone again. So there's no sign of him backing down, is there? And it is an absolute disgrace that he won't. He's come out and saying the intermediaries are putting it out in the media that he's not going to play for Newcastle ever again, even if it goes past the transfer deadline day and he's stuck, if you want to put it that way. It would be awful to be stuck in Newcastle, wouldn't it? He's in a World Cup year. He's going to ride the bench and not play, and then come to January and go through all this again. And what I really think now that what needs to happen is I still don't want to sell to Liverpool, and Liverpool don't want to pay the 150 million. They'd rather tap him up before the summer and then try and get him on the cheap. So I want him to be sold to Europe. If we can be sold somewhere in Europe, send them on loan somewhere for a year with the option to buy it. Then allow us to go out and get a striker. Then I know there's limited strikers left, are very little, but we need maybe we just need to have a contingency plan that we have two strikers. Not an Isak replacement, just two strikers, because we need two strikers no matter what. They're going to play and they want to play for Newcastle. I'd even love to see him being sent off to on loan to Saudi or something, club in Saudi. But I'll say no more on him. I'm just sick of the saga now as well. I as I said, like in the last week of my attitude towards him has gone sour, because I really hope that he would just back down on this, and there was some way around it, but there's no way around it now. I don't think there's any way back for him in Newcastle. I don't think we're ever going to see him playing in black and white again.
Chris, we obviously knew when it came out that he wanted to leave, that he wanted to obviously leave the club, go to Liverpool. We knew that. We knew he wasn't going to be around forever. Are you surprised with the levels that he's gone to, with the depths of the lows that he's stooped to try and force his way out? Are you surprised by it, Alexander Isak?
Yeah, I'm surprised, disappointed, pissed off. Yeah, I think he will look back on this and regret it. Do you know what? I watched Geordie Journo's, friend of the channel, Liam, Dom, and Jordan. I watched a video that they did yesterday, and Liam gave a very passionate responses to how he felt about Alexander Isak and what he would do with Alexander Isak. And do you know what? I found myself agreeing with him. If you haven't watched it, make sure you do. Really, really good video from yesterday. But yeah, for me, it's just, do you know what? I'm on it. I said to my wife Lisa, I think it was last week. I said it felt like there'd been a death in the family, and I know that sounds really dramatic, but like I was just so like disheartened and disappointed and upset and angry and frustrated and annoyed and loads of different emotions. Some people will say that it's the agent to blame. Some people say he's been misadvised, but ultimately, I still believe that the player, people keep talking about it, player power. The player has the power, and the player is a grown man. He can make his own decisions. I think he's made his. Well, he's tainted his achievements at Newcastle. I don't think he'll ever be viewed the same whether he stays or goes. And I think that it's such a shame, because this could all have been done behind closed doors. It would still have hurt when he left. It would still be disappointing for us as fans, but we wouldn't have had this media circus. He's made the whole summer about him. And that's what's really annoyed me more than anything, because it's not about one player, it's about the club. It's about next season. It's about Champions League. It's about enjoying the fact that, you know, we're current holders of the Carabao Cup. It's not about Alexander Isak. And this whole summer has been made about Alexander Isak. And I know that the intention from the likes of Liverpool, the intention from the media, the intention from Alexander Isak and his camp was probably to make us feel this way, make us feel like we've got to sell him. And in my heart, I want him to go. I want him out. I don't want him here anymore. But then I still have this nagging feeling in my head where I think, I'm sorry for the French, fuck you. You're not going anywhere. You're going to be made. I want to see him stew. I want to see him uncomfortable. I want him. I know I won't physically see it, even though I'd love to. I'd love to see him walk back into training on the 1st of... Sorry. I'd love to see that. I'd love it. I'd love to see him not go to Liverpool and then be able to say to all the Liverpool fans, told you he wasn't going anywhere. But then my heart is saying, yeah, but do you know what? The money that we get for him, it would transform the club. We can move on from him because we all feel the way that we do about him now. You see loads of people in the chat, all saying the same thing. We all feel very, very similar. It's gone past the point of wanting him to stay now. I don't think anybody wants him to stay. We all acknowledge he's a world-class striker, and we all know that. And that's why Liverpool, have seemingly been so keen to get him. But he's gone about it all the wrong way. And he's tainted his time on Tyneside for me. And I will not be upset to see the back of him. But then on the other hand, I do think, you know what, make him stay, make him come in and do his job that he's being paid for, and then sell him when you want to sell him. So I'm very like that over it. I think when he goes, I'll be celebrating, which I never thought I would. I'll be celebrating when he goes, but I just want to ensure that he goes for the right price. He goes for the price that we say. I've even found myself today, boys, saying to the lads, so it's got to be minimum 130. And they're already saying to me, oh, so you're lowering the price already. And then I'm like, what am I doing? But it's because I want him gone. I don't want him here. I don't want him here. But that's what all this was trying to set out to achieve when Newcastle ends up approaching Liverpool going, oh, would you like to buy Alexander? And that's not what we want to do. I don't know. What do you think, Pete? What do you think?
Chris, we're okay. We're okay to change our mind on it because we're fans. And you're right. We want this saga done with because it's ruined our pre-season. It's ruined our summer. This is why I asked the question about the transfer window, because that's become second nature now to Alexander Isak, it's gone under the radar, the fact that we have signed players, which is why I asked you boys the question earlier, because I actually think the window hasn't been that bad. Yeah, we've had rejections, but we've signed players of good quality that we needed for the squad this season. But Alexander Isak has completely ruined what should have been a real positive summer and positivity going into the season, with Ramsdale, Alanga, and Malick Thiaw in the building, with Isak head down training pre-season under his belt. This would be a completely different outlook going into Aston Villa this Saturday. So he's single-handedly created, and I don't agree. But I kind of had this initially when it all happened with Celtic and the tour. The agents got in his mind, blah blah blah. Nah. Not anymore. This is down to Alexander Isak because he's 25 years old. And if he didn't want this to happen, he could have stopped this at any point. He could have stopped this and said, nah, I don't think we should be doing this. I want you to do this. He can instruct his agent to do that. He's in charge of his own destiny. He's made
pays him.
And he pays him. He's made his bed. He has to lie in it. I'm the same, Chris. I'm kind of like, I'm torn because I want this saga done with. I want it over, and I want us to be able to just move on. But at the same time, I don't want him getting away with this. I do not want Alexander Isak getting away with this. And to be fair, I said it to Jay Brotherwood on Sky, and he came back and was trying to protect the player a little bit and saying, oh, this, that, and the other to kind of create that argument. No chance. He's acting like he's bigger than Newcastle United. Nobody's bigger than Newcastle United at all. And it should never, ever be the case that anyone ever is. And he's acted like that this summer because he's tried to overshadow the club. And that's not acceptable. And you know what? I love the fact that the owners have stepped in and gone, not having it. Not having it. You leave when we tell you to leave. Because you've got a contract for 3 years at Newcastle United. Why has that gone missing in all of this conversation with Ornstein and Fab and all these people? They want to talk about, oh, he's unhappy, wants to leave, and all this rubbish. What about the fact that he signed a 6-year deal 3 years ago to stay at Newcastle United? What about the fact that he's still got 3 years left on that deal to run? Nobody's talking about that. Why? It's because it's all Liverpool heavy led. It's all Liverpool heavy led. They just want the big news and the big scoops and the big talk that Isak's gone to Liverpool, and they want all the money that they're going to earn off the back of that. They're not considering Newcastle United in this. So why should we consider Alexander Isak? Why should we consider Liverpool in all of this? Because we're Newcastle United. We're not just going to let him go for nothing or for cheap and it's all okay. I want him to stay, not because I want him to stay because I want the player to be there. I don't. I want him gone. But I want him to stay because I want Newcastle United, and I said this the other day, and I mean everything that I say. Newcastle United, I want them to send a message to every other club out there, in particular those big clubs that think that they can come and just cherry pick our players. Ain't going to work. It's not going to work like that. You're not just going to come in and take a player and think that you can do Billy Big Bollocks and override it. We're looking to be a big club ourselves. We're looking to be a team that's challenging on those levels. We're not just going to do, and I said it on Sai's channel, what Man United did years ago with Andy Cole, Dwight York, and all those other players where they just went into a club that was smaller than them and go, yeah, we want them, we'll take them. Nah, don't work like that anymore. And our owners absolutely standing their ground right now and going, no, you're not leaving because we don't want you to leave. And if you are going to leave, you're going to go at our price on our time. And that's how it should be. Absolutely. So I actually want us to see it. It's weird because I want him gone.
Yeah, it's weird.
I want us to see this through. I want us to see this through. And I want us, what I want to do, I want to put this theory to the test. Is he really going to sit there for a whole season and refuse to play? World Cup season. Miss out on a Champions League campaign, something which he still hasn't turned up in, by the way. He scored 1 goal in our last Champions League campaign. He's still not proven on the top elite level yet. So we still got, is he gonna sit out this Champions League campaign where he's got to put himself on the pedestal as one of the best strikers in the world? Because that's where you do it. You don't just do it in the Premier League, you do it in the Champions League. Is he going to let that run? Is he just going to sit there and refuse to play? Not a chance. Is he going to do that? But I'm willing to put that theory to the test. And I bet Newcastle owners are willing to put that theory to the test. This is why it's so important that we get our other striker in right now. Because we get our other striker in and we go with that guy for the next 2 or 3 days. We're in a good position. We don't need Alexander Isak at this point if we get our striker in that can take us through the early part of the season. And then let's put that theory to the test. Is that agent still going to be throwing out a load of rubbish through David Ornstein and Fab? Or is he actually going to go, you know what, we need to sit around the table now and we need to thrash out a deal? And you know what it's going to do, lads? It's going to make Alexander Isak look even more like an idiot. The fact that he's doubled down and tripled down on all of this and gone through all of the ways to get out of a club that he could have possibly gone through and still ended up at the club. And he's going to have to walk with his head down back into that training ground. Because I tell you now, I don't know this for sure, but I'm making a pretty good guess here. These players are pissed off with Alexander Isak. Yeah. They're pissed off that he's ruined their pre-season. They're pissed off that he's ruined their potential start to the season. And actually, I think they're looking at him thinking he's a bit of an idiot by how he's behaved. And I tell you what, there was a Scouse guy, a Liverpool fan called Scouse something in the chat that was mentioning it. And he even said, and there's been so many Liverpool fans, nice to see actually for a change, Liverpool fans turning around and going, yeah, I didn't think he'd act like this. He's gone a bit too far. Even Liverpool fans are saying it. other clubs, Man United, Tottenham, Brentford, Brighton, all these other fans are going, he's acting like an idiot now. This is not on Newcastle United anymore. Newcastle United are okay. This is all on him. Everything is now being viewed at Alexander Isak and how he's behaving. This has gone way beyond Newcastle United. Newcastle United is sitting pretty right now. And what was really interesting, and I want to bring this up, is David Ornstein clarified his points today in a recent podcast. In fact, a recent podcast, it was done today. And David Ornstein says the story we reported on in The Athletic is extremely well, thoroughly sourced from multiple contacts privy to the situation, and there is an awareness of the perspective of Alexander Isak. He does not intend to play for Newcastle United again. Yada, yada, yada. Even if the deal is not done, he's still at Newcastle United. He has no desire to reintegrate, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Rambling on with all of this stuff. But what they didn't put in that is that David Ornstein also said Newcastle United are in control. That is what David Ornstein said tonight, and that's not what's been put out. You haven't seen Liverpool accounts throwing that out there in the media today. You haven't seen nobody else put that in the media today. But David Ornstein, after all of that he said that Newcastle United are in control of the situation, something that hasn't been said all summer. So I believe that Newcastle United have the narrative back. We are now in control of this situation. We decide what happens next, not Liverpool, nor does the player. And you know what? Hold him to ransom. Make him sweat. Make him sit here for another season and play for Newcastle United, whether he wants to or not, because he has damaged his career. He has damaged his reputation. And also he's damaged our pre-season. And that shouldn't be able to be let gone lightly, in my opinion, on all of that. So that's where I stand with the situation.
I wanted to get on one point as well, but I'll pick up where you left off there, Pete. Just like, what kind of an Alexander Isak would we get in that situation is just something to think about first. But I'm going to link back to what you said, Chris, and I agree with you. It was like a death when that news broke, because I was on holidays that time, and I ruined my holiday, because even though you have a good holiday, but that's all you're thinking about as well, of that going on in the background. It's definitely ruined the start of the season for me. In a Champions League season and everything like that, you'd be building up the hype. But this saga continuing on and not knowing who's going to be scoring the goals for us, really, who's leading the line going into this season. And then if we're what kind of an Isak do we get? Then he has to get some game time as well. If he does eventually put on a black and white jersey again, which I still don't think it'll happen. But like with Villa, Liverpool, Leeds, Wolves, and then it's a Champions League game. Is the next. So there's not an awful lot of time as well to get his way back into the team if that's what was to happen. For me, lads, I think I want to have gone. But and I know it's probably it's as the days go by, it's unlikely. But also the Samu thing, and I know we're going to get onto it. But that's who I bring in, and I know he's kissing the badge and saying he's staying here. But I'd push the boat out to get him in and make him our number 9 with Isak gone. With Isak sold, not to Liverpool, to somewhere else.
Just to touch, Daz, on what you said, when you said, about you can't see him staying, or you can't see him pulling on the jersey again. It's funny because that I look at that scenario and I think similar. I can't imagine him playing for Newcastle again. And I've just seen Aaron's comment there, Aaron Cave. He says the only way this is salvageable is if he does an interview with the club and explains stuff. His agent's 100% been pushing this. I don't think it's much on the player side. It's all media driven. Now, I do think Alexander Isak has a huge part to play in this. I think there's major bridges that would need building and mending. I saw a article from Gary Neville earlier today, and Gary Neville, I know he's a bit Marmite, Gary Neville, isn't he? But sometimes he just
there it is.
Oh, there you go, Pete. There you go.
There it is.
Can I read this out, Pete? Do you mind?
Go for it.
So Newcastle must keep Alexander Isak. Sky Sports has Gary Neville talking about Alexander Isak's situation at Newcastle. Isak should be angry with his agents. It's unsavoury. I feel sorry for Eddie Howe, which is, Pete, you said that the other day. Isak wants to win trophies and is agitating for the move because he's got one career. I can see both sides. At 25, he's got 5 or 6 years, good years left. It looks like this guy is down in tools and saying he's not playing, and I don't think it's right. Newcastle have to stand strong here. If you're the club, it sends the wrong message to sell after what has happened. I think they have to keep him for another year because the precedent will be dangerous for Newcastle. And do you know what? I read that. And I think this is where the head starts taking over, you know, like the feeling. Because I do think to myself, if we get to the 1st of September and we've got a seemingly very unhappy Alexander Isak on our hands, we've also got our pride boys. And we can end up turning around to other players within the team who maybe have thought about doing the same, or maybe, you know, are kind of, you know, wanting the club to stand strong and go, no, he's not going anywhere. And if anyone else tries it, exactly the same is going to happen to you, by the way. It's not suggesting anyone would do that. But it also sticks 2 fingers up to, you know, the big 6, to any clubs who think that they can just come along and just take our players as and when they want. This isn't, and you know, I'm fed up of seeing the same thing online. Look at Visser. Look at the situation with Visser. The situation with Visser is similar, but it's not the same. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and there was a verbal agreement. Alexander Isak, we heard that Alexander Isak, straight after the Carabao Cup final, allegedly said he wanted to leave. We heard that he said on the first day after the season ended that he wanted to leave. Well, why was Alexander Isak pictured in the new strips? Why is Alexander Isak, you know, plastered everywhere in the Newcastle club shop, etc.? If Newcastle knew that he wanted to leave, that wouldn't be very wise. It really wouldn't. And I just think that the longer this goes on, the more that I believe that there's probably a good chance that he stays. And as more and do you know what, boys? I'll finish on this part and pass back to you. I actually feel quite pleased that Newcastle handled it the way they have and Eddie Howe's handled it the way they have, because for me now it's a no lose for Newcastle. Because if we keep Alexander Isak, we basically turn around to everyone and go, didn't pan out how you all expected, did it? And, you know, he didn't go anywhere like you all said he would. But if we do sell Alexander Isak, as long as we sell him for the right price, we're going to be content and comfortable knowing we've got rid of him. He's gone. We didn't want him anyway. He's gone. The narrative has turned. It's gone from, we don't want to let him go, he's ours, you can't take him, to now, fucking have him. Have him.
This is why. Go on, Daz, go on.
No, so for that to for him to come back and play for Newcastle, I would think, and I cannot see this happening, he would have to sit down in front of the media verbally, not a statement that's useless, because I could write that for him. He needs to speak to the camera and communicate to the fans.
I think he's got to.
Pretty much like medieval times in the stocks, throwing tomatoes at him. That's pretty much the same thing as that. Because that's I cannot see him doing that. From the statements that have come out, do you think he'll do it?
No.
I think he's got to. I think he's got to. And the reason I say that is because there's still. Let's not forget, boys. Let's not forget. There has not been one statement, one quote from Alexander Isak's. I was going to say something bad there. From Alexander Isak's mouth that he wants to leave. And this is where I think there's an opportunity. And this is why I think he's been very fucking clever, because nobody has quoted them. This has all been media driven. This has all been, Alexander Isak wants this. Alexander Isak thinks this. Alexander Isak does this. There hasn't been one quote or one interview or anything. He's literally hid.
Come on, lads. Come on. Like, look, you got to look at this situation. Like, you know what? I get what you're saying, because a few people have said it. Like Liam said it last night in his videos. I watched it as well, and I get what you're saying in all of this. If this was over a course of a few days or a week, I would understand that point. That he hasn't actually said it.
Oh no, Pete. By the way, just to clarify, I am not saying. I'm not saying. What I mean is, sorry, I need to clarify what I meant. I'm not saying that this has all been a bad dream and, it wasn't true. But what I mean is, because he hasn't stuck his fork in the sand, and there's quotes, and because if he came out and did an interview and they go, yeah, but mate, you said on camera like a week ago that you definitely wanted to leave. I'm just saying, I believe there is an opportunity for him. Yeah, there's an opportunity for him to go. Oh, there's been a lot of speculation. And let's be honest, boys, actions speak louder than words. It's all fucking true. It's fucking true.
It's not believable, Pete.
He hasn't said
right.
We as a three, and everyone that watches this channel on a regular basis, we see through the bullshit. Yeah. Because we've been covering this every step of the way. Like there might be people that might not have been covering it, opposition fans, all the rest of it, that might go, okay, fair enough, move on. Nah, not for us. You can't use the agent as an excuse when this has been going on for over a month and will continue to go on for another 2 or 3 weeks on the back of this. At some point, it has to be that he is driving this because he is allowing this to happen. He could have stopped this at any point if he really wanted to. So Newcastle fans will know that this is him. This is what he wants. This is what he wants to do. And this is the thing. Like, it doesn't matter whether he hasn't officially said anything or not. He thinks he's protecting himself. But the reality is Newcastle United fans see through that bullshit, and they know that it's come from him, and they know that he doesn't want to be at the club, and they know that he has manufactured all of these things to ruin our pre-season, to ruin the players' pre-season, and he's dragged us fans through the mud in the whole of this saga. It all falls on him. And this is what I was saying to you, Daz, is that I get what you're saying, Daz. You don't want him at the club. None of us do. I don't. Chris doesn't. No, everyone in the chat is already saying, I don't want him back at the club. I want to go. We all want him gone. But at the same time, I don't want our club being seen as a bit of a laughing stock, which is where we were early on 2 or 3 weeks ago. I want us to come back and hit back hard. I want us to see this through. And you know what? There's a part of me that wants to see Alexander Isak have to step foot back on the pitch. I want to see Alexander Isak. I want to know that, Chris, you said you would love to be there to see it. Well, I want to see it. I want to see him step back on the pitch and get the raft of the Newcastle United fans at St. James's Park. I want to see Alexander Isak feel the raft of Newcastle United fans to let him know that what he did for this whole summer isn't acceptable. It isn't acceptable, and we're not going to accept it. We're the fans that backed him when we didn't need to back him. We're the club that signed him when he had 6 goals in the whole of that season for Real Sociedad. We signed him and paid 63 million when he scored 6 goals that season. Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, all those teams didn't even give him a sniff, didn't want him, weren't interested, couldn't give a crap about him, right? It wasn't even on any of their agendas. We put the punt in there and we gave him an opportunity. Eddie Howe's nurtured him to be one of the best strikers in the world. And then he goes and does that to his manager, to his friends, to his teammates, to his fans. I want to see him. I want to see him kind of look and experience that reaction, because players need to understand. They need to understand that this type of behavior isn't acceptable. We understand that he wants to leave. That's fine. It goes back to the original point we said weeks ago. There's a good way and a bad way to do it. And he has gone not just the bad way, he's got the real shitty way of having to try and force his way out of the club. And I want that to fail. I want that to fail. And I said it to Jay Brockmore in my last point on Sky at the time. And I said, I don't want Newcastle United to create a pathway for Sandro Tonali, for Bruno Guimaraes, for Sven Botman to think this is the way we need to leave Newcastle United. And I don't want us next summer, 2026, to have this same saga again with another player that thinks he can just refuse to go on the tour. He can just kick up a fuss and throw his toys out the pram and he's going to get his move. No, we need to end this now. And if it means that we have to suffer with an Alexander Isak slumping and grumpy and mardy and not getting his move the way he wants for another season, so be it. Because it sends a message that no player is going to get that from Newcastle United. And to be honest, I'll be honest with you, lads, I think very, very quickly he'll get his head down. Very, very quickly. get himself back into the game.
He will.
And very, very quickly, he'll want to try and score goals for Newcastle United. But I don't want us to make it easier. Whoever the striker is that comes through the door, whether it's Johan Wieser or someone else, I want him for a period of time, a significant period of time, to be our number one. I don't want Alexander Isak to think, oh, well, I'm the main man. I'm okay now. I've said sorry. I've made up. I'm back in starting for Newcastle United. No. He needs to be riding bench. He needs to be getting 10 or 15 minutes a game to prove himself. And he needs to be putting goals into the net like nobody's business this season. I want him scoring goals ridiculously to make it impossible to keep him out of the team, for him to earn his way back in. That's what he needs to do if he stays at Newcastle United. It's a win-win for me. My final point. It's a win-win for me, which is what you talked about, Chris. We have to keep him. And we have stood our ground. We've held back all the noise, all the rubbish from Liverpool, all the media, and we've kept to our grounds, and we keep the player. Or we stick to our grounds, we've stood our ground, we've said what we wanted, 150 million, and that gets paid to us, and then he goes. Win-win either way. You get the 150 million.
I've got two questions. Sorry, Pete. Sorry, I thought you finished.
And I've got one point as well.
Go on, Daz.
Can I just give one point, because it's linked to what Pete described there. What you described there, Pete, I agree with what you're saying. We don't want to set the precedent for other players to do similar. And what you described there, from the shitty situation we're in now to a kind of utopia version of events. What if it doesn't go that way? What if we have, remember Anthony Gordon and the whole situation last year? What if he truly isn't Mr. Iceman, and his mental state is fucked going into the season, because he's only one man at the end of the day, and he's got to, if he can't get back, get his head to be the player that we know he can be, and he's only half the player, we're screwed as well in that situation. So that's my worry, that's what we're left with. And I know still play it on. He's a shit season. We have another striker there, or maybe two strikers there that can fill in, and then he still has 2 years left in his contract, and we can sell him in the summer. We've shown our hand. We've shown that we're strong. We're not going to be pushed about, but. And at the same time, we still get our sale, and we cash out on them and move on and have an adequate replacement coming in. But
absolutely, he's proven his value. He's proven his value. He's already done 2 years back to back of scoring 20 plus goals. He's already proven his value. So regardless of what happens this season, we can still hold our value and demand way over 100 million for him, even with 2 years left on his contract. Let's not forget, Coutinho, I think, went in the January to Barcelona.
Suarez went the next year.
There you go. So there's no reason why he still can't go in January and we get a massive, massive fee off the back of that. There's no reason why. But someone just put in the chat, and this is what I was going to say anyway, is that if he's not the same player, and he hasn't come back with that attitude to go, right, I'm going to get my head down and play, he sits on the bench. His value, his value doesn't plummet, but his reputation does, because people will look at that and they won't be able to trust that. He's already proven that his reputation's took an absolute battering this summer through his own doing. There are clubs and people in high positions that will be looking at that and going, not sure that's the kind of player that I want around us. Players will be looking at that and thinking, is he a little bit petulant? Are we going to have to deal with that in the locker room at Liverpool if he signs for us? If he doesn't get his own way, is this who we're having to deal with? Like that's going to be genuine questions that are going out there that's not out there in the domain of social media that people are talking about. He's got to earn his way back in. He's not going to be the one that everyone's talking about if he's riding bench and he's getting 10 or 15 minutes here and there. I would much love Johan Wieser or whoever we sign as Samu, for example, to be the main guy, and that's our go-to guy. He's our number one. If you want to displace him, put the ball in the net, put good performances in, show us that you want to be number one at Newcastle United. That should be the aim. And if he's not, let him sit on the bench. Let him sit on the bench for 6 months to a season. That's fine. It may be a hit on Newcastle United, but in the long run, it sends a deeper message. And actually, it has a long-term effect in a positive way on Newcastle United. I think most Newcastle United fans would want to see that come to fruition. in terms of we're not going to be messed around here. We're not just going to be pushed over. That's what needs to be the message. So it's either they pay the 150 million, which is our value, or he stays with us. We win either way, lads. We win either way. We now, for the first time this summer, we hold the cards. We're back in control of this whole situation. We decide what happens next. And that's how it needs to stay.
Just last point, right? For him to stay at Newcastle and to play for Newcastle again, can you see any kind of him coming on camera and making any kind of a statement to the fans? Or he'll just rock up on back in training, he'll be ride the bench and he'll come on as a sub and he'll start. Any kind of, because it can't be Eddie again.
No, for me, 100%, he has to make a statement. It's got that bad. It's got that bad. For me, he's got to be stuck in front of a camera and he's got to say, "I've ballsed up here. I've ballsed up." And what he's got to do is he's got to admit and say, "I had my head turned. I wanted to leave. That wasn't possible. Now I'm fully committed to Newcastle. I regret what I did, and I'm going to get my head down." And I want it because, you know, like you boys were saying, then he cannot. Once the 1st of September comes, if he's still here, he cannot just down tools or go, "Oh, no, I'm not bothered now," because you know you don't get to the very top in the game. You don't get to the very top level like he's at now without having that drive, that determination. And let's be honest, boys, if he wants to leave, if he's got ambitions of moving on and, you know, doesn't want to be at Newcastle anymore, but wants to move to a really big club, it's almost like he's pressing the reset button. He's got to start from the bottom again to get people interested in him so that when January comes, when next summer comes, people are going, "Fucking hell, right, we need a new striker." "Oh, yeah, I scored 30 goals. Oh, it's Isak though, isn't it?" No, but look at the season he's had. He got his head down. He got on with it. Yeah, do you know what? I'll take a risk on him. Or people get to next summer and go, "Right, need a new striker. Who are we looking for?" "Oh, Isak, yeah, he's available for 100 mil now." "Yeah, but he's been shit all season." "Do you know what? He can just stay where he is." That's the reality. He's got to get his head back in the zone, and it's going to be good for Newcastle United. It's going to be good for the fan base. It's going to be good for him personally, and it's also going to be good for his prospects in terms of getting a new move. He cannot, like Pete suggested, he cannot ride that bench for too long. He can't. He's got to force his way back into the reckoning, and the only way he's going to force his way back into the reckoning is by improving his behaviour, and when he comes on, making a difference. Because otherwise, you know, he's going to be playing in the 3rd and 4th round of the cup, you know, away to Tranmere or something, because they're the only opportunities that he's going to be given. Because if he's not demonstrating correctly that, you know, he deserves to be in this team, he won't start. He just won't start. He'll just be on the bench, and he'll come on now and again, and he'll sulk, and he can't risk getting to January or next summer. He cannot risk doing that, because I tell you, the likes of Liverpool will not fancy it. They really won't. And we've already heard, boys, and we've spoken about this previously. We've already heard the rumours about, you know, what happens with Ekitike? Is Ekitike's nose going to be put out of joint? You probably saw, boys, if you watched the Community Shield, Ekitike was the forefront. And I tell you what, well, I noticed massively. I don't know if you boys noticed it. Where was Mo Salah? Where was Mo Salah? Because it was all about Wirtz. It was all about Ekitike. And if Alexander Isak joins that Liverpool team, Ekitike, then he's going to be riding the bench. He's going to be in the background. And I wonder whether that's what's in the back of Liverpool's minds, and they're thinking to themselves, "Hang on a minute, do we really want to upset, you know, Hugo Ekitike? Hugo Ekitike is burst on the scene. He's done very, very well, as we predicted, because we wanted him. And I wonder as well whether Alexander Isak's looking at that and thinking, this isn't ideal. This isn't good. And maybe Alexander Isak's looking and thinking, maybe it's a Barcelona, maybe it's a Real Madrid. Well, if it is a Barcelona or it is a Real Madrid, you're going to have a record-breaking season, mate, to get them interested in you. And you're going to have to put all this shenanigans to one side and prove that you can get your head down and that you can do the business. Because if you can't, I'm going anywhere.
I don't think Isak's worried about going to Liverpool and taking people's noses out of place. I think he knows he will go in and be number one. I think that will be his mindset.
But a Liverpool worries. Liverpool worries.
with what Liverpool, with regards to Liverpool. I think Liverpool are maybe looking at this and going, we've just made this guy our poster boy and Hugo Ekitike. We can't then just stick him on the bench because he'll be absolutely backup to Alexander Isak. And I think they're worried about, you spend 90 million on a player and he becomes backup, you're going to get frustrated. And let's be honest, like Ekitike is a temperamental character.
He's got a history of being petulant, Pete.
He's got it in himself. And are they wanting to create a narrative? Is this why they've kind of stepped back and gone, okay, we'll come to you only if you come to us, kind of thing? Because they don't want to make out like they're going for him, all out for him, to make it look like that they want him to come in and replace Hugo Ekitike. Is that respectful nature? Are they thinking strategically about their own players? I don't know. I could be wrong, but look, the whole thing around Alexander Isak has got to the point where lots of people have got their opinions on it. There's lots of people that have had their opinions on it. Gabriel Bonlaho, I never thought I'd agree with anything that he said, but his piece on TalkSport was absolutely spot on, and it has a statement there. Who does he think he is? It's disgusting. He's absolutely right. And regardless of all those comments, different people, Pardew, Luke Edwards, Ali McCoist, had their opinions, but it's Carragher's opinion that I think is important because he is a Liverpool fan. He's an ex-player. And he says, I don't think you should ever go toxic or nuclear when you refuse to play or train. That's a Liverpool legend giving that opinion on that situation. He's of the opinion that Liverpool shouldn't be paying 150 million for Isak. They shouldn't be, not when they've spent all that money on Hugo Ekitike. So there's people within the game that I think are now starting to sit back and look at this and going, maybe this has been handled not very good at all by Liverpool or by Alexander Isak. And that's what I say. Newcastle are up right now. People are not looking down at Newcastle United thinking, oh, you've handled this situation. I think Newcastle United have handled this situation excellently well. Now all the dust is settled on what happened initially. I think Newcastle United have handled this situation really, really well. Eddie Howe, of course, handled this situation excellently. And they need to see it through. With 2 or 3 weeks left to go, they need to see this through. They need to stick to their guns, 150 million, or he stays at Newcastle United. It has to be stuck to that. It has to stick to that for them to see this through properly. But as you mentioned, Daz, really quickly, Jordan Cronin and Liam Kennedy did report that he is training on his own still and not with the players. He won't be playing against Aston Villa. That's a situation that we're in. And
he obviously can't play against Liverpool either.
Well,
no matter what.
He could.
Yeah,
I don't see it won't happen. So
that's more in that dream scenario that you talked about, that he comes on and he scores a hat-trick against Liverpool. But no.
It ain't happening. It ain't happening. I don't think Newcastle United will want that against Liverpool either, because the negative reaction that Isak will get against Liverpool, it's not what we need when we're trying to beat Liverpool at St. James's Park. You're not going to want Isak to be on the pitch against Liverpool when you're trying to beat them, because all the scrutiny is going to be out there. You'd rather him not play at all. So for me, I don't think we see him until maybe Leeds away, maybe even after that.
Not even at the game.
In fact, we ain't going to see him for the rest of this window. Until the window is done, we're not going to see Alexander Isak put on a shirt for Newcastle United unless there's a dramatic turnaround. At that point, people, take a deep breath. We spent a long time covering Isak.
That's good to talk it out, though, as well, isn't it? It's good to talk.
It is. And even better when you hit those likes, people. Get those likes. So we've got, 550 in the chat talking about all things Newcastle United. Lots of great points in the chat, as well as the discussions on the screen as well. One to cross off the list as we talk about midfielders now for a second. One that's not likely to happen at all is Lucas Paqueta. Keith Downey did report yesterday that there is no truth in the interest in Lucas Paqueta, and that is not likely to happen at all. So we crossed that one off the list, although it would have been an excellent signing, by the way. However, one that could well be a big tick on the list is this man. Jacob Ramsey came to the forefront in conversation. We have been linked with him for the last couple of years, to be fair, fleetingly, but it's become a strong link today. And yesterday, it was talked about through David Ornstein that Newcastle have started talks with Aston Villa over Jacob Ramsey. West Ham looked like they were going to get him, but Newcastle have come in, and Jacob Ramsey has very quickly said that Newcastle is his preferred choice, which has put West Ham out the race. They've gone for other centre midfielders, and Mateus Fernandes was one that they put a bid in for recently. Fabrizio Romano jumped on it and said that they're closing in on Jacob Ramsey. Craig Hope said Newcastle last night were negotiating a price, but says it could move quickly today. A fee around 40 million was mooted. Someone that reports on Aston Villa, John Townley, has reported that Newcastle have made progress in that 40 million deal for Jacob Ramsey. Villa have not been able to secure the 21-year-old's future on a new contract, something that we'll come back to a little bit later. Fabrizio Romano said this morning that the deal's almost done. Sammy Mokbel mentions that we are close to a full agreement. Mike McGrath did jump the gun early this morning. He said that the fee was agreed. 23-year-old still has to speak to Newcastle and agree personal terms before undergoing the medical. It hasn't been agreed yet, so we did jump the gun on that one with regards to Jacob Ramsey. Keith Downey said in response to that, the agreement's not there yet, but there's still a little bit of work to be done on that. Boys, what do we make of the Jacob Ramsey situation? Something that I didn't expect us to be talking about actually a couple of days ago. Someone like Jacob Ramsey being that close to be signing to Newcastle United. What do you make of him potentially coming in?
I think I could have spoke about him towards the start. Maybe it was the PSR window discussions in June. But look, I like Jacob Ramsey. Mainly, not so much last season. I didn't see an awful lot of him, but the season before, when he burst on the scene, I thought he was class. And I know he's kind of taken a small bit of a backseat last season, and Rodgers got the headlines, rightly so. But Eddie Howe seems to always have liked him, so I think like he's an upgrade on Willock, and I think we should sell Willock, but the injury is going to slow that down. And I think Eddie Howe can get him to the next level. He's stronger than Willock. Willock is always falling over, isn't he? And every time he goes down, you go, "Oh, he's injured again." But Ramsey he's been known for a few injuries himself, but he's quality to bust through and maybe and he's a powerful shot on him as well, actually, as some of the goals I was watching today. But yeah, if Eddie likes him, I like him. I think he could be a good addition to the squad, good squad player as well, and he'd get plenty of game time. So yes, I know we're going to talk about another alternatives as well that probably rule out, and when we get onto that, we'll talk a bit about that.
Absolutely, Chris. Your opinions on Jacob Ramsey? Yeah, we have talked about him before, but it was one that I didn't think would come around so quickly. It seems like the deal is kind of ramped up very, very quickly on that. I would absolutely love it, Jimmy. I would absolutely love it. But Chris, your opinions on Jacob Ramsey, mate? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, boys. I looked at his stats and I was a little bit underwhelmed. He hasn't got the best of stats. However, like Daz, I do remember when he burst on the scene. And, I did think, they've got some player here. Now, obviously, injuries have stopped that. Maybe loss of form, maybe other players coming in. I don't know. But the thing that does excite me is the fact that, he is a player that Eddie Howe's wanted for some time. We have spoken about him before, and we know that Eddie likes to go back in for his targets. There is a specific I feel like Liam Neeson, though. There is a specific type of player that we like and that we go for, and we don't like to collect out. Yeah, the specific set of skills. That's what I was looking for, Daz, yeah. And, I think he's a player who would be useful to Newcastle United. I think he's a player who, would undoubtedly be an upgrade on Sean Longstaff. And ultimately, that's, what we're looking to do. We're trying to kick on. We're trying to progress. And you can't have, boys, which we've spoken about before, you can't have 25 world-class players. You just can't. You need players who are going to come in and do a job for the team. And I think that's what Jacob Ramsey could do. And I think, he's a great age. I'll go as far as to say he is a great age. And there's lots of progression in him. Sorry, I can't say the only thing because his stats were very underwhelming. The only other thing, that I did have on my mind was, and that I'm not so keen on, is potentially helping Villa out from a PSR angle. Although I have been encouraged by the fact that apparently Aston Villa don't want to lose him. They've offered him a new contract, which is probably why there's some way to go, and why a deal hasn't already been agreed. It seems like the player wants the move. The player's keen, which is great. Again, really great to hear.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it looks like Villa maybe want to cash in elsewhere. There's been links with Leon Bailey moving today. Maybe they're looking to cash in elsewhere. Daz, you put that in the chat, didn't you?
That in a second, definitely.
Yeah, so I think, and obviously we've heard John McGinn. His name's been mentioned about leaving Aston Villa. So yeah, it doesn't. I think it's a solid signing. When you go from Paqueta to Jacob Ramsey, it doesn't have the same pizzazz about it. I'm not going to lie, but I do think he'd be a good player. And as we always say on this channel, anyone who Eddie Howe wants, I think we should all want, because he doesn't get things wrong, or very rarely gets things wrong, in terms of signings. So I have no doubt that if he comes in, he will be a good addition. But yeah, that's kind of where I am with Jacob Ramsey.
For me, I think, to put it out there initially, I think Jacob Ramsey is a good player. And I think Jacob Ramsey could do some really good things at Newcastle United. You boys have talked about it. He's a left-sided centre midfielder. In a left-sided midfield three, I think he absolutely excels at Newcastle United. I think he's got the technical ability. Technically, he's excellent. He's quick. But not just that, he's really good with the ball at his feet. So progressing the ball up the pitch, I think he's really good at. And then to add that, it's always good to have, he's a really good friend of Anthony Gordon. So all of those four things are really, really positive with regards to Jacob Ramsey. But there's always been these two things with me, and I've talked about it with you boys before when we've talked about Jacob Ramsey previously. Two things that really hold me back and make this deal a potential risk for Jacob Ramsey. One is his output. So his output in terms of his goals and assists are really low for a midfielder. He doesn't do enough in terms of those final balls, creating, scoring. The second thing is his injury record. His injury record is not good. And that's a concern. They're the two major concerns for me. Not his ability, not his quality, but it's those two things. It's his output on the pitch and his injury record. If Eddie Howe can get him regularly playing for Newcastle United and kind of get rid of this injury thing that's standing over his head right now, I think we could have a real player in our hands. And this is the thing. I'm looking at this situation, I'm thinking 40 million is a lot of money. It turns out to be that it's not a 40 million pound deal. I think it's like a 30. I think Danny said on his video earlier, it's like a 32 million plus that will take it to 40 million. So it's a kind of 30, 32 million pound deal. Still quite an expensive deal for a player that is a little bit of a risk. Well, we've seen with Newcastle United that they've taken risks with players of that level before, and they've ended up being very, very good. And so it could well be a risk worth taking. But there are the two risks, and the two stand-up points that I have that I'm not quite convinced of. I think on a previous show way back, before the summer, I think I put his stats up on the screen for you boys when we talked about Jacob Ramsey, and I thought, for that reason, I'm not quite convinced on it. But if Eddie Howe wants him, well, of course, we'll back him. And at the same time, I think we'll get good things out of him. But the point that Chris touched on, Daz, I'll come to you on this, because it was, wasn't that. It was, in fact, this, is that AS Roma are in talks with Aston Villa with regards to Leon Bailey. It's clear that Aston Villa need to sell players in order to be able to buy. It's very, very clear they're in that position right now. And one of the points that was touched on previously, I think it was the point that I brought up with John Townley, the bit at the end saying that Villa haven't been able to secure his new contract. Could it be that Villa are trying to get him to stay at Aston Villa, because the reaction from Villa fans has actually been, for us, quite positive, because they don't want him to leave. They're absolutely gutted. Liverpool Villa fans are gutted that he could potentially leave in the club. But what do you think about that? Because you put that in our chat.
Yeah, no, I seen first, that there's talk of Villa trying to get him to sign a new contract. And yeah, it does look like they're kind of looking at a few different sales of different players to get out, like to balance the book some way for them, and to unlock maybe the potential to go buy as well then in this window. And I'll also point to that, I cut it up as a short today from last night in Top Table Talk. Rich gave his opinion on Ramsey, and like he's actually very, very unique in his we have this affection with our players. The three of us do. He's happy if once you're getting the money, he's getting the money to go and invest in other players. He seems happy enough to do business, I guess, and to trade. But yeah, I don't know. This one could go either way. Yet it did seem like a sure thing this morning. So much so I used to even set up a sign-in reaction show. But it looks like it could go either way yet. I still think we end up signing him, though.
We could well end up signing him, that's for sure. But it kind of means if we sign Jacob Ramsey that we miss out on this player, which I was really excited about. And it's this man here, Belal El Khannouss, player that we talked about previously during last season. He obviously was at Leicester. I think Leicester paid 20 million for him, Morocco international. John Percy, which it came a bit left field, because John Percy, people think, just reports on Liverpool information, but actually he's very, very good at East Midlands stuff, particularly Leicester and particularly Wolves as well. If people remember last season, he did write a piece on Newcastle being after a centre-back that ended up going to, he's got my mind, he ended up going to West Ham in the end, but we were looking at doing a PS deal with him. Kilman, that's the one. He is very knowledgeable. Yeah, it was Max Kilman. He's very knowledgeable on Wolves and Leicester information. But the Telegraph reported on it with regards to the deal potentially being there. Craig Hope, interestingly, says, so if he plays in a 10, Newcastle don't use a 10. They're interested for sure, but they think Ramsey suits Newcastle and how better. That was Craig Hope's opinion on that. But which one would you prefer? And is there not a world in which we could potentially sign both of those players? How do you boys see that one? Because I was really excited about El Khannouss coming in. What are your thoughts, Daz?
I would love us to sign El Khannouss. Yeah, just on him. He sorry, my headphone is driving me mad. It's beeping. When I saw watching some clips of him, he does remind me of like a Ben Arfa type player. That the ball seems to kind of to be glued to his foot, and he's able to get past people as well. Only 21, a lot to do in the game. I think. Again, under Eddie Howe, he gets the best out of him. Then again, though, is he kind of like a number 10? We don't play with the number 10, and that's why Craig Hope was kind of ruling him out as well. But that may be because he thinks the Ramsey deal is so far along. I think if we were able to get both, we'd have great strength and depth in, and to be able to switch things up at mid-game and even switch up the tactics and go for it even more if we're behind or something. But it doesn't look like. And that would go for both. And I think Craig Hope said it was kind of even ruling us out of being in the run for him. So I don't know. Hard to tell.
Chris, your thoughts on Belal El Khannouss? His release clause apparently finishes tonight. So after that, we may well be able to negotiate a different fee. But in your mind, should El Khannouss be the guy that we go for, or should we be sticking with Ramsey? Is it the worst thing in the world if Ramsey doesn't work out, that El Khannouss is still an option? Where's your head at with this potential?
from what I've seen of Khannouss, he looks an exciting prospect. I think he did really well in a poor Leicester side. I think you were the first one who brought our attention to him, Pete. You mentioned him that you'd seen a few games from him, and I like the idea of him because he's a bit unknown, but I do appreciate what people are saying, in terms of him being more of a 10, whereas Ramsey's probably more of an 8 who can play in a 10. You know what, boys? I'm being a bit greedy here. I'd like to see both. I would like to see both. Whether or not there's room for both, I don't know. But because I think Khannouss, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Khannouss can play off the wing as well. I think Jacob Ramsey can play off the wing, actually. I'm pretty sure I've seen him play off the wing for Villa. Yeah. And I just wonder whether there's an opportunity to bring in Khannouss as a bit of a project player, bring in Ramsey as a direct replacement for Sean Longstaff, and then maybe you see the likes of Willock being moved on because on a loan, that is, because I do believe that we will bring in 2 strikers. What will happen with Alexander Isak, we don't know, but to have an extra winger in there who can also play in the 10 if we need them to, if we perhaps go to a 4-2-3-1 or something like that. I don't know. I think if you gave me the option, and this is because of my initial reaction to Ramsey, I think I would prefer Khannouss over Ramsey. But the fact that, Eddie Howe seems pretty set on Jacob Ramsey, I can understand why. From what I've seen of him, from what he brings to the team, I think he's probably better suited to our team, which is natural because obviously Jacob Ramsey isn't really a 10. He can play 10, but he isn't really a 10. He is more suited to the centre of midfield. But I would like to see both, and I think if you can pick Khannouss up for a decent fee, why not? Why not try and get both? Particularly if you're going to come into some money towards the end of the transfer window, but who knows?
I agree with you. I think we absolutely need both. I think we need a little bit of something different. Jacob Ramsey can play in that midfield and offer that set midfield role, but Bilal Khannouss can give you a little bit of unpredictability. He can give you that little bit of creativity, that little bit of sort of like gold dust in a game that just changes on a little bit of skill, a turn, or a particular ball into the box. He's got a really good delivery on it. And I think it's absolutely needed in this team because I watched that Atletico Madrid game. And although we did well, particularly in the first half, we were dominating Atletico Madrid for large parts of that game, but we missed that player within pockets that can create and just open up a bit of space and find a pass through the middle. Our game is so heavily played out on the wings that if we come up against a team that can counteract our wing play, we have nothing else. We don't have that intricacy in the middle of the park. Bilal Khannouss can add that level of quality in that middle of the park, in between the striker and the number 8. He can find those little gaps. You know how back in the day, Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne destroyed us by playing in that number 10 because we couldn't find a solution to that. Yeah. I'm not saying he's on that level because he isn't, but he could well be our version of that in games where teams don't know how to play against us or how to tactically set up against us because we've got someone that is a little bit unpredictable, that offers something a little bit different. Let's not forget, if we play a different formation in the Champions League, for example, with 2 behind the striker, he can play in that role too, and he can be effective in that role. So I think there's an element where both of those players could be really, really useful in that. And with all due respect to Willock, I know he's injured, but I would be shocked if Newcastle weren't planning on moving him on this summer. I'm looking at this situation. I'm thinking, hold on a second. And I was speaking to Lawless about this last night, actually. And I asked him the question. I was looking at this. I was thinking, well, they wanted Jacob Ramsey. We're looking at taking him. Why are we not offering them Willock? Why are we not putting Willock in their hands and going, you want him? 20 million plus 5 in add-ons or 25 million all in? And to be fair, he said, I'd take that. I'd take 20 million or 25 million for all in.
Do it.
For Joe Willock. That's Lawless actually said that.
Gets back to London.
Like, why are we not doing that? Why are we not moving on our players that we don't necessarily see have a future at Newcastle United to teams like that?
Do you think the injury stopped it, Pete?
Maybe, but they said Willock was what, 4 to 6 weeks. I would say by the end of the window, he'd be very close to being ready. And players have been signed by clubs when they've been injured at a time. Obviously, the medical works slightly different, and they'll have to monitor that injury. But that doesn't mean to say that a deal can't be done for a player, particularly if a player is very close to being available. It wouldn't necessarily affect the price. But for me, if I'm Newcastle United, I'm not saying right now, but let's assess it towards the end of the window. If West Ham haven't got their midfielder in, which is what they crave and they're desperately needing, why wouldn't we be offering Joe Willock a move back to London to a team where he can play every week? They're lacking pace and someone that can get up and down the pitch and have that energy. That's actually what they need right now. Why are we not offering that and saying 20, 25 million, we get our money back for what we got on him, pure profit, because I think we've paid off our money for Joe Willock now, we're very close to it. So a lot of that money gets banked and put back into the club, and then we get Khannouss and we get Ramsey, we get 2 fresh midfielders that could offer something new to this team. Like, for me, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer in that situation. I would be absolutely, if I'm Newcastle United, I'm absolutely doing that right now. I'm offering Willock right through to those type of teams, whether it's Palace, whether it's West Ham, those teams that need a midfielder. I'm offering that all day long. But boys, let's wait and see. Anything else to say before we move on?
No, boys, I think we need to go to the super chats. They're stacking up there. We need to tackle some of those. Chris, do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, go on, mate. Go on. Right, so let's have a look. First of all, Samsonite Dove, been a member for 7 months. Thank you very much, Samsonite. Much appreciated, mate. Thank you for being a loaded ultra. Samsonite says, putting £5 on us taking Hoyland on loan last day of the season. I'm not going to comment on that.
Listen to you, Chris, I think.
Hey, let's see what happens. Let's see how we get on with our striker recruitments. Let's see what happens. Jeff Barlow. Jeff, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Jeff says, what is your ideal end to the window, lads? I'd love to get Walter made, Yavi Guerrera, and Visse, and sell Isak for 135 million plus. It's unlikely, but not impossible. So let's deal with the first part of Jeff's question. What is your ideal end to the window? Give me a number on signings and tell me, is Isak still here or not?
Ideal situation for me is to have a smile on my face at the end of it. A number on signings. I think I know Pete Graves promises 5. We have 3 already. I am saying I want 3 more.
Yeah.
And does Isak?
Oh, sorry.
No comment on Isak again.
Minimum
3 through the door, Pete. How many more? And Isak, yes or no?
Minimum 3 for me. Minimum 3 through the door. Javi Guerrero, we've talked about Loaded Mag NUFC. He's just signed a new contract with Valencia, so he won't be moving anywhere else. But Wisa, I think will get done. Walter Maid, I think he'll end up at Bayern for some reason. And I'm frustrated at that. But 3 more through the door. Isak, at this moment in time, I think he stays.
Yeah, I am very similar to you boys. I think 3 more to take us to 6 in total. And I think that'll be 2 strikers and a central midfielder. That's what I think it'll be. I'd love 4. I'd love to see a central midfielder, a number 10, and 2 strikers. That would be my ideal. But maybe that's being a bit too greasy. Who knows? And on Alexander Isak, the longer it goes on, the more confident I am that he will stay. I think it will be. I just don't see Liverpool paying the price. And if we stick to our price, I just don't see them coming in with 150. I'd be surprised. But we will see. We will see. But thank you very much for the super chat, Jeff. Much appreciated, mate. Tino T4B or I think it's just Tino. I think YouTube starts adding.
Yeah, it's Tino. Tino's always putting super chats in.
He is. I think YouTube's adding extra letters and numbers on and stuff. But Tino, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. He says, "Why would Isak refuse to play in a World Cup year?" And mate, that's exactly what we were saying earlier. It's exactly what we were saying. I think Alexander Isak, if he's still here on the 1st of September, he's got to get his head down. He really, really has.
Just on that, it's not the World Cup year answer, but I imagine the extra bit onto people's names is probably they have an emoji or something on their name, and that's why YouTube has changed it. That's my guess behind that.
Yeah, it could be that. Oh, you've just reminded me. I think it was James Wallbridge. I left his comment up for ages, and I forgot to ask you boys over it. The reason that it's YouTube update yesterday. That's okay. The reason that Alexander Isak hasn't handed in the transfer request is because he loses the bonus rights. I think a few people said it in the chat, but I'm just saying it for anyone who's listening to this. Yeah, the reason he hasn't handed in transfer request is because he would lose rights to his bonuses, and allegedly players are entitled to 10% of the transfer fee if they don't hand in the transfer request, which is why. All about the money. All about the money, and that shows you how desperate he is to leave. Because I think, and I wonder whether that will be his last roll of the dice in the final week. We will see. We will see. T-Mar Guitar. Thank you very much for the super chat, mate. I'm a man of my word. This one's for Chow. Great show as always, boys. Nice one. Thank you, mate. Good man. Good man.
Love it.
Man. Nice one.
Much appreciated.
This man has promised to give us a super chat every time we make a signing. So that's our cheers, man.
Good man. Nobby Clark, big fan of the channel. Nobby, hope you're well, mate.
Saw him on Saturday. Atletico Madrid.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You were talking about it, weren't we? Yeah.
Oh, Nobby, hope you well, man.
I think Liverpool have already won. They have caused the disruption in what they've set up to do. Selling Isak now sets a bad precedent to future players. Yeah. It depends how you look at it, though, Nobby. We're trying to stay positive on this, because even if Liverpool get him, they're going to have to pay top dollar for him, and ultimately Newcastle will have eked all of that money out that they were hoping to get. They did ruin the summer for us on a personal basis, and you could argue on a transfer basis, but they will have paid the money, and if they don't get him, then I think Liverpool will have egg on the faces, because they've ultimately not got their number one target, which they told us already signed for Newcastle, for Liverpool. Nobby Clark again, thank you very much, Nobby. Sorry for the poor predictive text on the super chats. Yeah, I did struggle with that one, Nobby. I'm not going to lie, but thank you very much, mate. And it is very nice of you to apologise and give us another super chat, so thank you. Big shout out to Gary D, member for 42 months. Brilliant, mate. Thank you so much. Keep him and ruin him. And I think that's in response to Alexander Isak. I like that. Short and sweet, but I like that. I like it. Where are we now? Nobby Clark, Nobby again. Did Gary Neville read my super chat?
I think he did.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, Nobby. Cheers, mate. Still going through. We've got two more. Geordie Toon for Life, member for 42 months as well. Thank you very much, mate. Free Newcastle, fuck Liverpool. Yes. Love it, mate. Love it.
Yes.
I wanted to say that. I want to say that all our mods, if we see free Isak in the chat, suspend them for a period of time. We're giving you that right. No free
timeout.
Isak. Yeah,
no.
That's the timeout. We give him a timeout.
Yeah, no free Isak. I like that. And the final super chat, just before we wrap up, Crowfox24. Thank you very much, Crowfox, for your generous super chat. If PIF wish to make a statement, send Isak home to Sweden on full pay until he retracts everything. It will wake the idiot up and get rid of his advisors.
Absolutely.
Like that. Like that. Yeah, a good firm hand.
Give him a holiday.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't talk about, and I know
I just want to go to one.
Go on, Dad.
Go for Pete. No, I just
really
want to say
quickly,
I'm not answering this question because it comes from my mate Jer, who is a Liverpool fan, and if he wants me to answer that question, I want 150 million for Isak, Jer.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pete.
150 million. No, really quickly, I'll do it in 30 seconds. Johan Wieser, The Dango Atara situation is potentially getting done. These are the dominoes that are falling through. Interestingly, Bournemouth are very close to an agreement with Amin Adli from Leverkusen, also in talks with Callum Morendo of Brentford. These are all the dominoes that are likely to fall in order to get Wisa. So that's just a little quick 30-second update for you just as we end the show. So hopefully we'll have some news on that.
Okay, that is it. We've got 15 seconds left. No intro or outro. See you in the next one. Good night, everyone. Smash that like.